This is probably a somewhat familiar story to most of us, I would think. We're going to hear a little bit more about it from two of our youth today, Samantha Seaman and Lena Koshik. But before they share their thoughts on this passage, I want to just give you a tiny bit of background to put it into context a little bit. You may or may not know this, but there are many creation narratives and many creation ideas in the ancient world, and they were all speaking to each other. So, for example, there was a civilization, there was a culture in Babylonia where the Israelites, the Hebrew folks, were taken and held captive for a period of time. And during that time is actually when most of what we call the Old Testament, the significant portion, was written down. Certainly the Genesis story at that time was written down. But here's the thing that makes it really even more interesting than the amazing reading we just read. Another layer to it is this, is that the Israelites every year at the new year would be taken to the town center in Babylonia, and there they would be forced to watch the Babylonian creation story acted out in a dramatic fashion every single year. Now, that may not seem like such a bad thing to be forced to watch a drama every year, but this drama was really violent. The Babylonian creation story involved securing power for one person that elevated himself as this god. The way that was secured was really through killing a lot of people, raping a lot of people, and literally creating the world and people out of the blood of his slaughtered victims. So that's the story that these folks, our ancestors, were forced to watch over and over. And so not only was it this, wow, this is, pretty bleak creation story, not much hope in this one, it was also a way for the powers that be at that time to say, and we are the lords over you. You are our subjects, and we can do this to you as well. So imagine the Israelites, the Hebrew folks that are forced to watch this, they say, no. When they get back and wherever they were staying, they say, this is not our God, actually. This is not the one that we believe in. Here's the one we believe in. And so begins, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, and the Spirit of God was hovering like a bird, like a mama bird hovering over her nest. That's really what that word means. It has movement. It's a fluttering of wings, really. It's beautiful. If I were better versed at Hebrew, I would recite the first few verses for you because they rhyme like the night before Christmas. It's beautiful. And it was used in very much the same way. Families would gather, they would recite this together, and they knew all the words. Imagine it as a bedtime story for children. This is our God, very different than this other God that we are forced to try to believe in. We just simply don't. So, I was a little surprised, I have to say, when the youth chose Genesis 1 as the passage for today, because it's sort of like, okay, all right, Genesis 1. I love Genesis 1. But there are many more sort of flashy, exciting, less-known passages. Yet, as I sat with it, I was thinking about the fact that we're honoring these graduates, and I was thinking, maybe that's perfect for in the beginning. Because to some extent, you guys got your beginning here, right here. And I hope that you have felt appropriately hovered over. I hope you have felt nurtured and loved. And I hope what you know is that that same Spirit goes with you out of here, that you always have a home. The other thing in here that I cannot not say, two things. One is that there's an emphasis in community on this passage. Community. It's let us make humankind in our image. It is not good for humans to be alone. These are some of the things that are repeated. All of the plants and animals have an interdependence on each other for their survival. We're made to be the same way. Find community. Let it be a really important part of your experience from here on out. Community that can be real. Secondly, we are made in God's image. That's no small thing. The Babylonian God created people from blood. Our God creates people from the earth that sustains and is alive. It's not dead, it's alive, and it gives life, and implanted God's image in us. So remember that you indeed are made in the image of God. And now our friend Samantha Seaman.
So, this may sound corny or cliche, but in all honesty, without this earth, where would we be? I went to an elementary school in New York City where the logo was a picture of the earth with people of all ethnicities surrounding the earth holding hands. And so now whenever I hear of earth or think of earth, I immediately correlate the logo. And that's exactly what earth is, right? Earth is made of all types of people, all different races, all different sizes. God created earth, and when you think about it, earth is kind of like our canvas. We can create an impact here. We can choose our colors. God created our canvas. That's pretty cool. Here on earth, I personally want to make an impact, whether it be big or small. At least it's something. I want to make a difference. I need to remind myself that we humans are not the only living things here. There are millions. There are countless types of birds and bugs and animals and plants. There's no possible way to know them all. Think of all those living organisms, all that energy they give and receive. When you go to the zoo or the aquarium, you're experiencing Earth at its fullest. You are learning about the different exotic organisms in your world, in your planet, in your Earth. When you are planting a seed that will one day become food and shelter for another organism, you are experiencing the Earth at its fullest. When you are recycling, renewing, reusing, conserving, and all of the above, you are experiencing not only Earth at its fullest, but you are helping Earth. You're helping our Earth. What's amazing about Earth is it has weather. It has rain and snow and thunder and lightning. Earth also has seasons: winter, summer, spring, fall. God created a pretty cool place for us to live. You know what else Earth has? It has wind. To be honest, I didn't think wind was that important. I was wrong. Wind is very important. Although sometimes it's damaging, it recycles our air. On a nice hot summer day, don't you just wish for a cool breeze? Before electricity, wind was our main source of power. Windmills powered everything. Industrial revolution, right? Wind was super important during that time. Even today, we still use wind turbines. Wind can also be a warning sign. When we feel powerful winds, we know, well, I think it's going to rain, or I think there's going to be a storm. Birds, they fly because of wind, and the Wright brothers, they needed to know a lot about wind in order to build an airplane. And now air transportation is very important to get to point A to point B. Without wind, we wouldn't have sailors. And before the big cargo ships, we had ships that had sails and were powered by wind. That's how early explorers discovered new territories and that our Earth was round. And that brings me back to one of the strongest images I've had of Earth from my elementary school days. The picture of Earth surrounded by children of all races with the slogan, "One family under the sun."
Hello. Fire is an amazing element. Fire provides us with warmth in the cold weather and heat to cook our food. Not only does it provide us with heat, but fire is also the light of the world. It's the light that guides us in times of trouble, and it's the light that we will follow for our entire lives. In John 8, the Bible reads, "Again, Jesus spoke to them saying, 'I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will not walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. The presence of fire to light our way reminds us that we will never walk in the darkness, for there is always someone watching over us. The presence of fire itself in the Bible has been known to signify a couple of things. In the Bible, we see fire representing the presence of God. We see this when God appears to Moses as a burning bush, when God appears as lightning, and when Ezekiel has a vision where God appears in fire. We also see fire representing God's punishment in the Bible. We see this when God punishes the city of Sodom and Gomorrah and disobedient priests by destroying them with fire. Although these groups of events are very different, they all signify that God is present and watching over everyone. Fire also signifies a sense of passion. Fire can represent love and compassion, like a burning passion or fiery love, but it can also represent hatred and anger. You know, like in some cartoons when they want to show that a character is angry, so they put fire in their eyes. So fire can represent a number of things, but no matter what we're feeling, the fire inside of everyone's soul is driving them to do the best and be the best that they can be. In Disney's Pocahontas, there's a song that begins with a line, "What I love most about rivers is you can't step in the same river twice. The water's always changing, always flowing." This line has always struck me as interesting for a few reasons, the most important of which is that it gives us a sense of what water represents. Constantly flowing, turning over, and moving on, water gives us a sense of rebirth, renewal, and growth. Water's always changing, moving, and spreading itself across the earth. It reaches from the highest point on the globe to the lowest, and Earth's waters support over 230,000 species. No one can live without water, and we tend to take for granted how amazing of an element it is. When I was in 6th grade, my science teacher finished off a class by handing out a worksheet that was labeled dihydrogen monoxide. Now, if you know a little bit about science, you know that this is a really fancy term for 2 hydrogens and 1 oxygen, or H2O. Unfortunately, in the 6th grade, we didn't know a little bit about science, so we had to actually read the worksheet. Under where it said dihydrogen monoxide, it listed a couple facts about this mystery substance. These facts included, is fatal if inhaled, causes hundreds of deaths per year, and is a major component in acid rain. After reading these horrifying facts, our assignment was to write a letter to our local representative stating what we thought we should do about this dangerous substance. Of course, we all said things like get rid of it, raise awareness, etc. So when we found out that it was actually water, we were all kind of shocked. I mean, how could something we used every day be so dangerous? Even I was scared every time I got in the pool for practice. I mean, this stuff could kill you. And then I realized something. I had already lived, at that point, 11 years on a world full of water. And somehow, someway, I was still alive. See, water requires a certain amount of faith or trust that it'll do nothing but benefit you. Every time you go in the water, or drink water, or even stand out in the rain, you're facilitating this faith. One of my favorite quotes, as a swimmer, is, "To have faith is to trust yourself to the water. When you swim, you don't grab hold of the water, because if you do, you will sink and drown. Instead, you relax and float," by Alan Watts. This is one of my favorite quotes because it demonstrates how simple such a faith is. In many ways, we're a little bit like water. From the day we're born, we're always changing and growing and learning new things. We're always forming into the amazing, unique people we are today. And like water, we all require a little faith in ourselves. Faith that we will become good people. Faith that we will do great things. And ultimately, the faith that we will do everything we can to benefit ourselves and the world we live in.